From unique forest penguins to penguins that have embraced the modern world, these birds will do whatever it takes to adapt and thrive. Now, for the first time, meet every member of this remarkable family.
Meet the Penguin Family February 9th or stream at nepm.org.
You're watching New England Public Media, WGBY Springfield.
I question America. Is this America? The land of the free and the home of the brave.
An icon of civil rights history tells her own story in words and song.
And we've been down so long, we ain't got no other way to go but up.
Fannie Lou Hamer's America, February 22nd, or stream at nepm.org.
Coming up, we're connecting you with the creativity and culture in your community, including a look at 130 years of basketball. And it all started right here.
The ball would obviously be stuck in the peach basket. It took a while until someone had the brilliant idea, let's cut the bottom of this.
We'll explore what the UMass Fine Arts Center has to offer this season.
Whether you're a jazz lover or not, there's something really fantastic about how jazz is created in real time.
And we'll head to the Berkshires to grab some food and a brew in a former stationery factory.
Shire Brewhouse seemed like a good opportunity to come in and say, guys, let me be your chef so that you can concentrate on making amazing beer, and I'm going to use that beer to complement the food and cook with it.
Join us for those stories and more as we explore the creativity, culture, and community that make us Western New England. Up next on Connecting Point.
Support for Connecting Point is provided by our contributing viewers.
Welcome, and thanks for joining us for Connecting Point, your source for creativity, culture, and community. I'm Tony Dunn, in for Zaida Lee Bauer. Our first story tonight starts off with a question. If I asked you what James Naismith, a fast food restaurant, and a local college all have in common, would you know the answer? Here's a clue. They all have something to do with a sport that was invented 130 years ago. Well, if you guessed basketball, you're correct. And producer Dave Fraser shares the story of how it all started right here in Springfield.
On the campus of Springfield College, the legacy of Dr. James Naismith is well represented, and rightfully so. The game he invented happened just a short distance down the road in the city's Mason Square neighborhood, inside this building, which has now been replaced by a fast food restaurant. Across the street, a monument with plexiglass panels helped tell the story of how this 30-year-old physical education instructor created an athletic distraction that became a worldwide phenomenon.
From the very humble origins of this game, it has grown into a worldwide phenomenon with immense popularity, one of the most popular sports in the world.
Judd Gymnasium is the oldest building on campus, and it houses the school's history museum that includes many artifacts and memorabilia related to Naismith and the early development of the game.
As the legend has it, put up these peach baskets that didn't have an opening underneath them. After each time that a basket was scored, they would go back and have a jump ball. The ball would obviously be stuck in the peach basket. It took a while until someone had the brilliant idea, let's cut the bottom of this.
Since that initial introduction in December of 1891, the game quickly spread throughout New England and around the world, impacting the lives of hundreds of millions across all ages. Basketball is now played around the globe by both men and women. Naomi Graves is the head coach for the Springfield women's basketball team. She fell in love with the sport at an early age.
Well, I think it was the backyard fun that you played with both men and women, girls and boys, in the backyard. Everybody had a basketball. I grew up where basketball was really important up in Western Massachusetts. And then in my high school, I was tall and I liked the game, so a coach identified me as a player and taught me the game, and then before you knew it, I fell in love with it.
The game played today is probably not what Naismith envisioned when he first introduced it. His initial 13 rules included no dribbling, dunking, or three-pointers. There was no shot clock, but goaltending was legal. Naismith himself recalled that first game in a 1939 radio interview that aired on WOR-AM in New York City.
The boys began tackling, kicking and punching in the clinches. Before I could pull them apart, one boy was knocked out, several of them had black eyes, and one had a dislocated shoulder. Something had to be done.
The rules would be modified to include dribbling and fouls, and other changes would evolve throughout the years. In 1892, less than a year after Naismith created the sport, Smith College gymnastics instructor Senda Berenson introduced the game to women's athletics, and by 1905, basketball was officially recognized as a permanent winter sport. Charlie Brock is in his 24th season as the coach of the men's basketball team at Springfield College.
The game has changed so much in the 40-plus years, 45 years I've been involved in it. And part of that's rule changes, and part of that's the way the game is played, and the athleticism and the skill set of the players, certainly today. It isn't something we talk about daily, but the kids know and feel the impact of the fact that they're playing at the birthplace of basketball, and it's got a somewhat of a mystique to it.
The reach of the game is very, very wide. I know over the years, when I've spoken with basketball players here, I'm in my 23rd year of teaching, and I've gotten to know a number of the players, and uniformly, they feel a great sense of joy and pride of playing the game at the place where it started.
Last year, the UMass Amherst Fine Arts Center kicked off their fall season with a variety of performances and programming, including the reopening of the university's art galleries after being closed due to COVID-19. Zydalise Bauer spoke with Jamila Daria, director of the Fine Arts Center, to find out how the local art scene is prevailing during the pandemic and learn about the rest of the season.
We're so happy to be able to let everyone know that we're open, that we are welcoming audiences back. And, the campus, as well as the Fine Arts Center, has safety at the top of our agenda. And we are we've just completed some extensive planning to ensure that everyone can come to our campus, be safe, and enjoy events.
So, Jamila, you started at the UMass Fine Arts Center in 2019, and just 1 year after you began, boom, the pandemic hits. So how were you able to navigate that, and what have been some of the challenges that have come with that?
It was certainly a baptism by fire. I don't think anyone saw it coming, and certainly no one was really prepared for a global pandemic. We got the official notice that our buildings were closed on March 16th of 2020. And by April 4th, we were back up and operating virtually. From April 4th, 2020, up through this academic year, we've put on 75 virtual shows. So obviously, it was a lot of figuring out as we were going, but I think that this team has become so adept at not only in-person presentations, which we all love to do, which is why we got into this business, but now we are wonderful producers of virtual programs. And now we're also going outdoor and having more outdoor events and public art events. And you're going to see that in the warmer months of this semester and next.
Speaking of the 75 virtual events that you all put on, like many of us, this was a new avenue for you to explore during the pandemic. What were some of the successes that came out of those virtual events? And do you think it's something that will continue on beyond the pandemic?
Well, I think that the great thing about virtual events is that they're actually a bit more affordable, which means that we have more money to invest in the artist and the development of new work. So for the first time in a very long time, we were able to really partner with artists and present a number of world premieres. We also expanded how we present arts education programs. So for example, we partnered with the Jazz at Lincoln Center and Wynton Marsalis. The weeks leading up to the election, we invited them to teach a 6-part course on jazz as a tool of liberation, because there's something really kind of fantastic, whether you're a jazz lover or not, there's something really fantastic about how jazz is created in real time. I mean, a lot of jazz is improvisation, and it's improvisation at a masterful level. So, you know, the players are not only so in tune with their own instrument and the sound that they're developing, but they're also in real time listening and co-creating with their ensemble mates. And I think that was an exciting new model for us in terms of not only presenting exciting works, but really bringing you into these masters workshops to really kind of hear their perspectives, hear their voices, look at how they approach the development of new work.
The saying is always, the show must go on. We hear that all the time. Why is that exceptionally important during these challenging times that we're going through?
You know what? Art not only helps us learn better, but it also helps us live better. I mean, we are meant to be together experiencing, you know, the highest expression of human creativity, ingenuity, wonder. And I think now more than ever, as we as a society kind of socially isolate, as we deal with such serious issues as a global pandemic, the reckoning of sort of race relations in the country, growing economic inequality, more than ever do we need to come together through the arts to help really create bridges, because we've lost a lot of bridges in the last few years as we've polarized. And I don't think of any better forum than sort of a rich arts experience to remind people that we are not, you know, digital enemies. We are neighbors. We are a community. We are friends, and the arts are here for all of us.
Jamila, as you know, artists, performers, and even venues like the UMass Fine Arts Center have all had to be creative and rethink how artistry is presented. What are some of the prevailing trends that you are witnessing in response to local and national ordinances put in place during the pandemic?
Thank you for that question. You know, I touched on the need for all arts organizations to become more versatile, to not only be in-person presenters, but virtual presenters, and then also outdoor presenters. I think another sort of challenge that I think COVID really brought to the fore for all of us, and we've been talking about this for decades now, but I think COVID really brought us to a sort of a reckoning point, is that we need to open our doors to more audiences. We certainly love the audiences that come now, those who have been with us from the very beginning. We're 46 years old as an organization. Who some of the folks who came to our very first performance in October of 1975 are still around today, and they come back, and we love them. But we also know that there are groups of people that we don't yet serve, and I think that for the future of the arts, not only in terms of the Fine Arts Center, but nationally, we need to be able to not only reflect a full range of cultures and communities on our stages, but we have to turn the camera and look at the audience to see if we are reflecting that in the house. And if we're not, then there's so much work that needs to be done, because our communities are here. This is a very diverse area. But then if you go into some of our theaters, it doesn't reflect that diversity. And we understand that our great lesson coming out of COVID is that is no longer an issue that can be sidelined, that it needs to be our central work, that the Fine Arts Center in our building has been renamed after our very first African-American chancellor, Dr. Bromry. So the Bromry Center for the Arts, we're here not only to present diverse arts, but for diverse audiences.
And if you want to know what else is coming up this season at the UMass Amherst Fine Arts Center, go online right now to nepm.org/connecting point, as director Jamila Daria gives our Zydelise Bauer the lowdown on all of the exciting things still to come. In the Berkshire County of Dalton, The building known as the Stationery Factory has a history that dates back to a time when industrial mills could be found up and down the Housatonic River and ruled the day. Like so many other mill buildings, it's been repurposed now and houses over 20 individual businesses, including a craft brewery and restaurant that could be looked at as a modern-day assembly line of a different kind. Connecting Point's Brian Sullivan paid a visit to the Shire Brewhouse and brings us the story.
The Central Berkshires town of Dalton, Massachusetts is a place that roughly 6,500 people call home. It's where one kid grew up to win a World Series, make the All-Stars for his hometown Boston Red Sox, and have a sports complex named after him. It's also where the United States gets its currency paper from. And not too long ago, Crane & Company had a stationery division here at 63 Flansburgh Ave. It may not be the paper factory it once was, but the building now houses over 20 businesses, some of them miniature factories in their own right. Here at the Shire Brewhouse, there's a brew underway before the sun has made its first appearance of the day. And that's par for the course in the life of a beer maker.
Typical brew day is 8 to 10 hours all told from start to finish. So depending on how much cellar work we do afterwards, typically we'll mash in early in the morning around 6:30, and then we'll typically finish around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Then we clean the brew house after that, and then there's other things that we might be doing during the day.
Shire Brewhouse is the brainchild of co-owners Nick Whalen and childhood friend Andrew Crane, who opened the doors to this 8,000 square foot basement brewery restaurant in the summer of 2017. The place certainly looks to be in tip-top condition now. That's thanks in no small part to brew team member Mark Geibel, who was tasked with the carpentry work to make it look this way, before it became the Brewhouse, and before he was one of the brewers.
The first time I saw this space, it was full of heavy equipment, industrial machinery, forklifts, old pumps, and it was basically a general storage area. So my first task down here were to clean up the space to maybe attract a tenant such as ourselves now. It's fun. We like to come to work. We know we have each other's backs. It's fun to learn every day as well. We take in everything we get from each other and other brewers, and you know, it's a culinary and science experiment on a daily basis, and we have fun with it.
It even looks like a giant science experiment, and they use language to describe what they're doing that's not often heard in the outside world. But the one part that an outsider like me could understand is when they get rid of these spent grains. This happens when most of the sugars, proteins, and nutrients have been extracted from the malt during the mash. And the circle of life continues as the spent grains are then placed in these barrels and left upstairs for the local farmers to pick up and reuse. Now these guys might be done with this portion of the brewing process, but today is really considered day zero. Next up is the fermentation process. That will probably take about 2 weeks before they can start putting it into barrels and cans. Luckily, they've got plenty of those barrels in stock, so they can have 12 on tap here at the bar. But those taps wouldn't start pouring until at least 4:30 in the afternoon when the restaurant opens. Prior to COVID, the brew crew also ran the restaurant end of things. The closures of 2020 gave them some time to rethink how to operate both ends of the business. Enter Berkshire Culinary Group and Chef Matt Motter with a solution.
Restaurants and breweries are both 24-hour jobs. You can't really do both. There's just not enough hours in a day, not enough personnel to be focused on one thing or the other. Shire Brewhouse seemed like a good opportunity to come in and say, guys, let me be your chef so that you can concentrate on making amazing beer, and I'm going to use that beer to complement the food and cook with it.
Coming from Pittsfield, Nick Whalen is the proverbial local boy makes good. But to speak with him, it's almost as if he hasn't taken the time to realize what he's accomplished so far.
It's been go, go, go for 4 or 5 years now. And you know, we don't really have a lot of time to reflect on it. We worked really hard to get to this point where we're still in business and making better beer than we've ever made. So I really just want people to have a nice beer and some nice food with good company. And that's really it. It's very simple. Good food, good drink, and good friends.
Every week, Connecting Point explores the creativity, culture, and community that make us Western New England. But it doesn't stop there. You can find us online anytime for exclusive features and content. In this week's digital exclusive, members of the Shire Brewhouse and Restaurant discuss the past, not only of their own former lives, but the life of the building they now work in as well.
My parents both worked in this building back in the 80s and 90s, and my dad can take me through upstairs and show me, hey, I built that wall, and this used to be here, this used to be there. It's really cool to think of that history, but then when you look back to when the building was built and to what it is now and that rehab, the idea that, you know, Nick and Andrew had trees and barn board from their property, brought it in.
You can find that digital exclusive online right now at nepm.org/connectingpoint. Avery Maltz struggled as a teen, dealing with an undiagnosed learning disability and enduring homophobic bullying in school. After graduating high school, Maltz took several years off before finding a welcoming community and academic success at Holyoke Community College, and has recently been awarded the Wells Fargo Scholarship from the Point Foundation, which is the nation's largest merit scholarship program for LGBTQ students. Zaidalis Bauer spoke with Maltz to hear how the scholarship will help them further their passion of building community, amplifying marginalized voices, and using natural sciences towards creating a more accessible world for all.
My family moved up here when I was 13. We were looking for a more accepting place to be. We had been on Long Island for a couple years, before that Manhattan, which was really nice. But I ended up staying after high school because I really liked the community and it was an easy place to live.
And I know that after high school, you didn't pursue higher education right away. You were dealing with an undiagnosed learning disability. And unfortunately, you also dealt with some homophobic bullying in your past school. So after taking so much time off of school after graduation, you decided to pursue school at Holyoke Community College. What was the driving factor behind that decision?
It was really about getting diagnosed with ADHD. And I did try to go to college straight out of high school, and it didn't work out. I didn't have the support that I needed. I didn't know how to advocate for myself. I didn't understand the way that the education system worked. I knew that I needed help in this way. And so I decided to pursue testing. And when I got my diagnosis, I decided to try again with school and see what would happen.
I mean, and it really did pay off because you, congratulations, have been awarded with the Wells Fargo Scholarship from the Point Foundation, which is the nation's largest merit scholarship for LGBTQ students. How did it feel to receive this honor, and how will the scholarship help you succeed with your goals?
It felt amazing. First of all, receiving that scholarship was incredible. I mean, I thought about who I was in middle school and how difficult it had been to be bullied for being queer and all the struggles I went through after that. And it just felt like everything had come full circle. And it's been an amazing opportunity. The scholarship has been super helpful, but also the programming that Point offers is really amazing. I've been able to do like one-on-one coaching. They have a lot of training in like the transfer process because I am working on transferring to a 4-year school right now. And so, they just have someone for every part of the process to offer support.
You are a peer tutor, supplemental instructor, and you're also president and co-founder of the Neurodiversity Club. What drives you to immerse yourself in all of these different initiatives, and why are you so passionate about building community?
Well, the easy answer is that it's really fun. But aside from that, I mean, I really do feel strongly just from my own path in life, that I don't want people to fall through the cracks in the way that I did. And I don't have any regrets. I think it's all part of it. And spending my 20s doing other things and then coming back to school has been part of my path, but it doesn't have to be that difficult for everyone. And I just think that everyone benefits when we all lift each other up. And so, I just think it just feels very basic to me to be looking out in that way and to be connected and to help others connect in.
Now let's switch gears a little bit because I think what you're studying is fascinating. You have really found your passion for research and STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Something that you're exploring is understanding how different cultures relate to the natural worlds that they inhabit. How does your passion for natural sciences and social justice go hand in hand? Because that's not something that I think many people think about, how relatable they are. So tell me about that.
As I started to go through my studies, I started to realize that like everything is connected and we can't ignore the human element of that. And, you know, there's a lot of instances where environmental issues are tied into systemic issues of racism. And so, yeah, I realized that there's really no way for me to fully be effective in the way that I want to be without looking at things through a lens of social justice.
Now, what message would you share with others who may have been facing similar struggles you have, or struggles in general? What advice would you give them to find a community or an outlet for themselves?
Try to reach out to someone. Like there's always someone else who's going to be going through a similar issue, or someone who has gone through something similar. And like, even if not, then like there's someone around you who knows someone. So that's what I've done in moments where I really have been confused by something or haven't really known how to overcome a problem. I just kind of figure out like who I need to connect with, who will either connect me to a resource or just listen or be able to help me through it. And that's something I've learned as a student. Like if I have a question or I'm confused about something, chances are someone else in the class is too. So I'll always raise my hand and ask the question.
And for more from Avery Maltz, go online right now to nepm.org/connectingpoint as they share some fun facts about the Holyoke Community College Greenhouse and what they enjoy most about being its caretaker in a digital extra. And that does it for this edition of Connecting Point. Remember, you can always find all of the stories that you saw in this episode, as well as exclusive features, digital-only content, and so much more online anytime at nepm.org/connectingpoint. And please be sure to join us again every Thursday and Saturday at 7:30 p.m. right here on New England Public Media for more stories of the creativity, culture, and community that make us Western New England. I'm Tony Dunn. Thanks for watching, and have a good night.
Support for Connecting Points is provided by our contributing viewers.
On Finding Your Roots, actors Pamela Adlon
I don't want to disrespect my lineage, but I'm so curious.
and Catherine Hahn.
What a frickin' story!
Finding Your Roots.
Finding Your Roots is all new Tuesday at 8 or at nepm.org.
You have 90 seconds starting right now.
I always refer to Schools Match Wits as a Western New England institution because it's been around for so long. It's consistent. It's something people can rely on. 61 years.
Math and science for 30.
It's the only show in the region that has that kind of legacy and history. Think of the thousands and thousands of students throughout the region who've been a part of his Schools Match Wits. It's kind of an amazing thing.
My wife and I are raising two young boys, Gideon and Monarch.
We're a total PBS Kids family. We love, especially Gideon, Peg plus Cat, and Daniel Tiger.
Monarch, he's really into animals, so we usually watch Dinosaur Train or Wild Kratts. He was so much into Wild Kratts, I had to get a membership to the zoo. PBS Kids shows us a world we can go out and explore together.
And it brings us together as a family, and I really value that.
Sunday on PBS, starting with Around the World in 80 Days.
I hope you find what you're looking for.
Then, all creatures great and small.
What are you doing tomorrow night?
I'm going out with you by the sounds of it.
Followed by Vienna Blood.
The messenger of the dead.
It's a night of drama you won't want to miss.
Watch Sunday night starting at 8 or stream anytime at anypm.org.
This month in Passport on the PBS Video app, your on-demand library for the best of PBS.
You're back. It's good to have you home, James. I'd like to dance with you again.
If your toes get ticket.
You belong here. This is your home.
It completely shocked our theories of planets and how they form.
It's just mind-blowing. Very early on, I realized that getting attention was a very nice thing.
These and other shows from your PBS station are available with Passport on the PBS Video app. Download it today.
New England Public Media is sponsored in part by our contributing viewers and by
People's Bank. When life gets real, it helps to have a bank that's ready for real situations. People's Bank offers a variety of ways to handle banking, even from the comfort of your own home. More at bank@peoples.com/simple. People's Bank.
You're watching New England Public Media, WGBY Springfield.
On American Experience.
Jeans are the quintessential American garment.
Half of the population of the planet is wearing them on any given day.
And yet so much of the story we tell about jeans is a myth.
Riveted, the history of jeans on American Experience.
Watch Monday, February 7th or stream at anypm.org.